Shalom from Jerusalem. My name is Albert Veksler. I'm the director of Jerusalem Prayer Breakfast, and we are here with answers for allies from our office in Jerusalem. And together with me is a good friend, Yoni Kittel. And Yoni, I just wanted to ask you, you have now a little time off from your army service, but you had some quite major adventure on October 7, and I just wanted to hear your story. And I'm happy that it had a happy end, because October 7 was a very tragic day, and not everybody had a happy end.
Yeah, it's a crazy thing. You never expect it to happen until it does. And it caught me off guard. Saturday morning, we all know what happened. And
Well, it was Feast of Tabernacles, many friends, many guests, nice festive atmosphere, Simchat Torah.
yeah, and you wake up in the morning and you have missiles flying at your house here, and I was in Jerusalem that morning. So to think, oh, okay, we're used to this. And it was 9 o'clock in the morning. I woke up at 8 and checked my phone, and I thought everything was okay. Then the videos started coming in the morning. I had a good friend who sent me some videos from what was happening in Sderot. So my family, my parents, my siblings, they all live in Sderot.
How long have you lived in Sderot?
They moved there 4 years ago.
Okay.
Zionism, American Zionist family, thinking we want to come and this is where we're supposed to be. And yeah, so never had I imagined this to happen. And we got these videos of terrorists in Sderot. Alarming.
So, but they came in pretty early, didn't they? What time did they come into Sderot?
They entered the border at 6:30, and they probably were entering Sderot around 6:40, 45, 7. So I was getting videos 2 hours after the incident.
So your parents are there?
Yeah.
And your brothers and sisters?
I have 2 siblings that joined the army. None of them had a weapon. And then I had 4 others who were younger. So I'm the oldest out of 7. So it was my parents and 6 siblings. 8. And I was the 9th, and I was with my wife here in Jerusalem. So I didn't know what to do at that point. I was unarmed. I've finished the IDF 2 years ago, and I'm an ex-paratrooper, a patriot. I love my country. And I knew I had to do something about it. So I drove to the police station, said, who's coming with me to Sderot? My family's in there. I went by all my friends saying, who has a weapon? Who's coming with me? No one was ready. I stopped at 3 different villages along the way out. No one was ready. It was 9:09 when I left. 20 minutes after, a missile fell in where I was living and hit the road right where I drove past to get out. And drove down as fast as I could down to Sderot, called my family up. And
So what time was it when you came?
I left probably around 9:10, 9:15. I was
Jerusalem?
From Jerusalem. Driving as fast as I could and unarmed and just not knowing what to do, calling my family, and they said, don't come here, Yoni, don't come here. But I told them, stay inside, lock the doors. They were unarmed. They couldn't do anything. And I was calling all my military friends trying to find out what was happening. I'd already passed, I was halfway there, and a friend of mine told me, and you know who this is, Sasson. And he told me 10 of our bases are taken over already. 10 of our military bases and villages have terrorists in them, and thousands have crossed the border. Doomsday event. And all my friends were telling me, just find a military unit and stick with them and find out what you can do. I didn't know if I would enter Sderot even. I was unarmed, but I knew I had to get to the front as quick as I could.
I understand that there were terrorists on the streets of Sderot. I saw video clips of them shooting people right on the streets. There were some elderly people murdered on the street. They were in a van and they just stopped, and then they were just murdered right on spot. What time would that be?
At 9 o'clock, I saw 2 videos. One video of a police car. There's a very famous video of a police vehicle getting shot at by the truck. So there's a truck full of terrorists, and the police are just driving by in their minivan, and they're getting shot at by terrorists when they're just driving, 2 police officers with handguns against 10, 15 terrorists with automatic machine guns.
So what time could it have happened?
That probably happened at 7, from what I've heard.
So that's 7. In Sderot?
In Sderot.
And you're heading to Sderot?
I'm heading to Sderot when there are terrorists there. And I also seen some videos of, they had a sniper position and 2 heavy machine gun positions in a rooftop, like on a balcony of one of the homes. And my family lives in the center of Sderot, like in the middle, maybe around 200 yards from the police station that was destroyed later on, if you've seen the videos. And so, and at this time, I'm in Rehovot already, and I reach Rehovot, and I see a Special Forces unit getting ready. So I jump out of my car, I try to find out what they're doing, and they were too busy to talk. And I was just in my normal civilian clothes, nothing, just shorts, short shirt, and just with my car. And they were leaving on their way to Sderot. So I just joined their convoy. They had a convoy of 4 vehicles, just 2 normal vehicles, and then another 2 military cars of some kind. And I just followed them.
Smart.
Yeah. It got me all the way to the final crossing into Sderot. So at that time, the military police had blocked all the roads leading up to Sderot. But when I was the final guy in the convoy, when they all went through, they stopped me, realized I was unarmed and not connected to the convoy. Told me I couldn't enter at that time, and it was 10 o'clock. I'd driven maybe 160, 150 kilometers per hour.
I can imagine. I mean,
as fast as I could.
Usually takes 2 hours almost from Jerusalem.
Yeah. I made it in less than an hour, 45 minutes even. And I was thinking, what do I do? How do I get to my family? At that time, these videos, you could hear the machine gun fire. Driving into Sderot from Rehovot, you could already see the fumes of smoke all over from the kibbutzim, the different villages that were on fire. And you know that you're entering a war zone and you're unarmed. First of all, you need to find someone. I thought maybe to find a kibbutz there, someone with a weapon, something I could do, just some way to arm myself and go in. Or I'm a warrior, that's what I'm supposed to do. I'm trained to do that. And at that time, when they blocked my car, I was like, what am I going to do at this time? And there were already 10 civilian vehicles outside, people that were unarmed, just civilians trying to get to their family, people that their family was inside or they lived there, but they were somehow out of Sderot at that time. And I saw this security guard. I saw a guy that was on the side, and he was angry. He was in his car, but he was like on civilian uniform, but you could tell he was a bit angry. And I was asking people, are you armed? Are you armed? Are you armed? Then I see this guy, and he was in his car, and I eyed at him and walked his direction, and I said, are you armed? And he said, I have a pistol on me. I said, why are you here? And he says, my grandparents are stuck in Sderot. They're not answering my phone calls. They're inside. I told him, listen, I know the ways around here. I know the ways through the fields. I know this mountaintop. We can go around. We can enter through the field. We can drive in. And luckily, the few months before, I'd been scouring, hiking around these areas. I knew the back roads, knew them pretty well, which was a miracle in itself that I'd been there in those months. I knew the fields. I knew the way around. And we were coming in from the north side of Sderot. So Sderot is a pretty large city. And I thought, okay, well, we're going to go in. So I left my car, jumped into his car, and we managed to get around. Around 10:30, we were driving through the fields. He had his pistol on him, and as we entered towards Sderot, we managed to cross a few different valleys, and we went to the top of this small mountaintop and ran up to it and looked, and we didn't see anything. The entire city was just open from the north. The fields were empty. No one was there. And he was an ex-Special Forces guy who was a bodyguard for someone, and he had his weapon with him, and he woke up that morning to try to save his family. And he had some combat experience with Palsar Sheva, which is a Special Forces unit in the tank division. So he went up to this point, and we looked over the city. And we decided that, okay, we're going in. All the time I'm calling my family, telling them I'm on my way, I'm coming in. And as we neared the city, the north part has all these different 10-floor, 11-floor buildings. And they're a perfect spot for a terrorist to look at you and just shoot at you from the high ground. And we didn't know if that part of the town had been taken over yet or not. But it was clear that up to that point, it was told to me that 500 terrorists were in the city.
500?
500. And you could hear the different machine gun fire. At least 2 or 3 machine guns were still going on at that moment. So I told him, he was buckled, and I asked him, how many bullets do you have on you? I was looking at all different directions to make sure we weren't going to get killed at that moment, driving up to the city. And he said, I have 30 rounds on me, and he was buckled, and I told him, listen, I think that I asked him, how fast can you pull out your weapon? How fast are you ready? And I told him, okay, I think it's a risk. I unbuckled him, so he was ready with his pistol, so that he could react if he needed to. And I put the buckle behind him. And he said, okay, I need your eyes. And I looked around and we couldn't find any terrorists as we entered the village. We drove in through an old abandoned work site that they were building at. And we parked our car. We decided it'd be best for us to enter on foot, to park our car and run in. And as we parked our car, we walked maybe 100 yards in, and we entered where the villa neighborhoods were. There were a few villas there. Everything quiet. Saturday morning, 10:30, 10:40. It was still early, but you could hear the gunshots from afar off. And as we passed the house, on the left of me, I heard an empty... You're used to this when you're in the military and you're shooting. When you shoot a bullet, the round has a shell that falls to the ground. And I heard an empty shell round fall. We were walking very quietly, and then you hear in the house next to you, like you hear the sound of an empty shell casing falling on the ground. We stopped, we ducked down immediately, and we didn't know what to do at that point. We didn't know if there was a terrorist in there, how many there were we going to be surprised? And I was unarmed, by the way, and I was just following this guy in. And all the time we decided, okay, we're going to try to make it to your house first, and then his family. His two grandparents were on the far end that was already taken over by terrorists at that point, at the closest part of Sderot to the border. We wanted to get to my parents' house in the middle. That was our plan. And luckily, we managed to pass. We just quickly sprinted past, and we didn't get into any confrontation with this one element. We don't know if there were terrorists there. We preferred not to find out. We kept running and dodging and zigzagging through the different buildings and the streets and constantly looking for cover and looking and analyzing. As we come around a corner, there was this guy that I saw from maybe 150 yards out, 100 meters out, on the second floor of a building, and he was just looking at me directly. And we both stopped, and we just looked at this guy. And he just looked at us. And he held his gaze at us, and he didn't make a single move. And when I looked at him, I could recognize that he wasn't Jewish. He was someone from the other side. And he just looked. And at this point, you're thinking, do I enter the fight or do I not enter the fight? This guy has a pistol on him. We're running from no man's land, crossing a street to get to this person. Do we enter the fight or do we not? And luckily, we decided at that point we're going left. We're not gonna keep looking at him, but we had a gaze that held for 10, 15 seconds. And we ran left. And I'm pretty sure that he was a terrorist. He didn't act like a normal person. You could tell he was a threat. And he just looked at us with a cold death stare. And at that point, we managed to dodge through a few buildings. We climbed over a few fences, climbed over a school fence, went through the school. We didn't want to be running around the normal roads. We managed to get to my family. It was a miracle that we got into the middle of Sderot.
What time was that?
I would say around 10:50, 11 o'clock. And I get these messages. There are 500 terrorists in the city. You have to get out. All this while, all my friends in the army are texting me, and I'm telling them I'm in the city. Like I'm in. And I didn't really realize it at the time. I was stuck in my home. My family was just barricaded inside. They didn't have any lock on their door. Their car was outside, and I'm in there with my parents, my 6 siblings, and I'm the oldest one in the family. And basically, I'm the ex-soldier. I need to make a decision. What am I doing right now? What are we doing? Are we staying in here without a weapon? And they're going by house shooting at people. And you could hear gunfire. And you could hear, as you get closer and closer, you hear the gunfire very close. And you hear in the house behind you, we could hear these things being broken. So the house right behind us, I was pretty sure there were terrorists in there, because you could hear like things being broken and gunfire, and you could hear someone was in that house that was not supposed to be there. And I had a decision to make. We knew that one of our neighbors had a weapon on him, and we were in touch with him, and he had his family, and their decision was, we're going to stay inside, we're just going to be quiet and stay. But when you're up against 15, 20 terrorists, let's say, that go through your neighborhood, and they'd already been on the street, my brothers and sisters would tell me they were already driving in their pickup trucks with 10, 15 terrorists. They'd already driven on the street, but they hadn't approached the doors yet. And because I knew that, I looked at the map, and I was thinking and praying that somehow I would get, a way out. What is the decision to make? Is it to stay here and let my family, probably get killed, or are we going to try to get out? And my family was telling me, we're going to put the kids up in the attic, we'll stay down here. And I was thinking, no, the kids are going to make noise. They're going to come in. We're not. I basically came to a decision, and I was really difficult, like a lot of pressure. The only way, I told my father, the only way we're going to get out is if we drive out. I know the way. I just ran in here. I know the back roads. I know that if we drive northeast, completely in the opposite direction of where they're entering from the side of the city that's already taken over, we're going to make it out. But if we don't move, we're going to be dead. No, my mom agreed with me. My father didn't agree with me at that moment, but I knew that I had to make that decision. I had to tell everyone, okay, everyone get ready. My sister got water in a backpack. Everyone was ready, and we had to leave. I tried to organize a convoy where the neighbor would come with us, but I kept calling him and telling him, we're going to be ready. Get ready in 5 minutes. Get ready in 1 minute. And he said, okay, we'll be ready. After a minute, we sprint to the car. I jump in, we put all the kids inside, and our neighbor's not there. So I was like, okay, we're driving. We're leaving the neighbor. We won't be armed, but we're going to go with speed. And it was a miracle. We didn't meet any terrorists along the way. We drove so fast and in throughout all the back ways.
How many were you in the car?
We stuffed into a 7-seater minivan 9 people, but
Thank God you had a big van.
luckily, yeah. And then we met the special forces as we were exiting. They started clearing homes on the northeast side. So as we exited through the back roads, we met a column of security forces that raised their weapons at us. But I had my blinkers on, and we were driving so fast, but they knew that we were Israeli. And we managed to get out.
So what time was that?
It probably took us half an hour to make a decision if to leave or not to leave. So it was 11:30 when we started the drive out, and 11:45 we finally made it out because we were driving through the dirt roads and through the forest, and yeah.
My, it was quite a decision, and thank God you were there.
Yeah.
And you took them out.
Yeah.
It's an unbelievable story actually, because you do know how many people were killed in Sderot on that day? You have any?
I actually don't know that figure.
Because I know that there were many that were killed in Sderot.
Many.
And the fact that you were able to come in and go out that late,
yeah,
is a miracle in itself.
Yeah. And
what happened to the other guy, the guy who took you in?
Well, we got a quick picture, and I have that picture, and he lived, but he managed to get to his grandparents' house, and they were somehow still alive, and they were safe.
So he could take them out?
He managed to take them out also.
Wow.
And if you didn't know, 30 of the police officers in Sderot, the entire police station was wiped out. Most of the police were gone, and there was no one left.
I think the battle was going on for days in the police.
For nearly
headquarters.
36 hours from the moment it started till the next evening after. It was when the police station was finally taken back and then destroyed. The thing is, after I went back 2 or 3 weeks later, I was driving through the neighborhood, and I asked the person that was in the house behind us that we did hear the people that were in, and they found the Arabic candy wrappers from the Arabs in Gaza. So they had these candy wrappers in Arabic that they were eating inside the home, just on a rest in between different attacks. So it was clear that they were there. They destroyed this guy's house, but he wasn't there, which was a miracle as well. It happened on a good day for most people, because why do I say that? A lot of people in Sderot were up vacationing. They left on that Saturday and they weren't in the city. So a lot of the homes were empty, from what I understood and what I have heard. Well,
it's quite a shock. How did you feel when you got out? The adrenaline?
Adrenaline. I was happy that I made the decision to fight and to in leadership. I was just reading this story, Yoni Netanyahu's story, just the week before. I was reading Bibi's biography, and there's a story of Yoni needing to take command of a situation in the Golan Heights in 1967 or 1973. It was Yom Kippur War or something, and yeah, it was Yom Kippur, and he had to make the decision: and as a commander, start giving out orders when under fire. He said, you know, there's a story where 20 commandos landed in a helicopter, and Yoni Netanyahu had to command his troops under fire, and everyone didn't know what to do. And there comes a point where a leader has to make a decision and say, we're doing this, we're going to do this. And of course, I had to, my parents wanted to stay. Everyone wants to stay, but you know that the only way out, you have to sometimes force your hand, and
It's
difficult.
It's difficult, but also
Yeah.
it's difficult to sometimes grasp the gravity of the situation. You think like, okay, maybe it will pass. Maybe,
Yeah.
you know, it's our home. What can happen, you know? But then when you got out of Sderot, I understand that your parents have been now evacuated, that they are in a hotel. So they've been in a hotel for 2.5 months.
Yeah. They're all here in Jerusalem.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's not easy either.
No. But we're a strong nation. We're
Well,
strong people. We'll get through it.
and then you were called up to the army service.
Immediately on the first day, I was up on the Lebanese border within 12 hours.
So after this adventure, if you can call it an adventure,
Yeah.
you are called up to
Yeah.
the reserve unit, and you were up in the north.
Yeah.
How many hours after your rescue operation?
Well, I was at 2 o'clock. I was home, or 1 o'clock. I was home again, and then at 3 o'clock, I told my wife I'm leaving. Put my army uniform on. I knew I was going to be called up, and I drove to Modi'in. Didn't know if I'd be called up north or south. Waited there.
Yeah.
4 o'clock, go north. So you go north.
Wow.
Yeah.
And so you've been in the north all these
Yeah.
2.5 months
2.5
training.
months. Fighting on the border.
Okay.
Firing at the enemy and doing what we have to do.
It's heating up on the northern border, isn't it?
Yeah, mortar shells, and I'm sure you've heard about the RC drones, and we've seen a lot of them. And we've had a few land near us, and a soldier died last week right next to where we were at. It's war. Of course, we hope that things will cool down up there, and I believe that they will. But we'll have to see.
Do you think that the U.S. presence in the Mediterranean is holding back Iran and Hezbollah?
To an extent, I
Okay.
think so. Yeah.
Because they're not attacking with the full force. They aren't.
They aren't, and we've managed to push them back quite a bit.
It's been more like they are like trying to trigger the Israeli response, or how do you explain, or how do you describe their activities?
I like what one of my commanders said. He said it's like two gangsters, like they're in a power struggle, just giving each other like two people just fighting, and just, you know, a few punches here, a few punches there, but it's not like a full out fight. It's just a little bit of a grappling.
Mm-hmm.
Don't know how to put it. It is a war, but it's not at its full extent. It's not a full gang against gang. It's a few bullies trying to show who's most powerful. Oh, I'm strongest. Oh, I'm strongest.
I see.
Yeah.
Well, we were in the Knesset today, so I was trying to explain how the concept of deterring Hamas had deceived our leadership, that we had thought that we can strengthen Hamas at the expense of the Palestinian Authority, dividing them in doing so, but we were really deceived on Hamas's real intentions, and it's clear that this religious dimension in their decision making is just determined to murder all Jews and to make an end to the Jewish state and Jerusalem, and they have ambitions to take over the whole world.
Yeah. It's clear. You can't divide and conquer anymore. We have to destroy and erase so it doesn't happen again. When we're relatively at peace with all the rest of our Arab neighbors, it's only this radical faction that needs to be stopped and prevented so it doesn't happen again.
Well, what would you say to our viewers? How should they pray for the Israeli army? Now, somebody from the inside.
Yeah. I would say we know that victory is ours, so praying for victory is purposeful, but I would also pray that the leaders of our country have wisdom in where to move and what decisions to make. There's a large burden on the shoulders of our leaders at this time. Whatever decision they do make, it's going to make an impact for generations to come. And yeah, wisdom. And I would say that prayer is good to our viewers, but also action is very welcome.
What kind of action would you expect?
I know that many of our close friends and people that support our nation have really been supporting us. And even me in the front, we've been getting tactical helmets, and we've been getting the gear that we need, and we've been getting...
So the army is not providing you the gear?
Well, the army provided us at some extent, but only now after 2 months have we gotten through the army channels what we tried to get in the beginning. And otherwise, it was American supporters and supporters from all over the world that gave to us out of the army through those channels, through public channels, and they were what gave us the gear that we needed at that moment. I would say that we have the physical needs that we do need as an army, but action would be welcome in probably emotional support for the soldiers. I see this, that a lot of our soldiers were not fully, I would say that we don't have enough manpower in the IDF. I'm not sure, I'm just a simple soldier saying this, saying that I think that we need a lot more mental support and encouragement, and maybe resources in that front to help encourage the soldiers and help them get through their trauma. PTSD, and I think that everyone in the IDF has PTSD in some way. We're a military that goes through probably we're the most rigorous, and we have a lot of action as compared to other militaries in the world. And when you see things like this after October 7th, there are going to be a lot of people that need these resources at this time. So anyone that wants to help in that type of front, it'd be very beneficial, I think.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Well, we are really thankful that you tuned in, and I think this testimony of Yoni, his boldness and really sharp ability to analyze the situation and make the right decision and save his own family is just remarkable. And I'm thankful, Yoni, for sharing this story. I think it is just unbelievable what happened, because we know how it could have ended. And so I would really encourage you to continue to pray for our soldiers. And they need miracles. They need the strength. They need the ability to discern and not to be taken by a surprise. So your prayers are so important. Of course, we know he who keeps Israel will not slumber nor sleep. But it's important to stand with Israel in this day and hour. And remember, praying for the peace of Jerusalem. They who love Jerusalem will prosper.